Your thoughts on this next topic. Do we need to bring in a wealth tax for the super rich? 0207 862 2222 is the number that you need. Now, in an interview with the Sunday Mirror, the former Labour leader said that rising levels of poverty in the UK would make Charles Dickens furious. He is calling for the 2-child limit on benefits to be scrapped to help lift children out of poverty. But the IFS, the Institute of Fiscal Studies, estimated that this would cost around £2.5 billion a year. So how could we pay for this? Now, in Kinnock's words, the economics of Robin Hood, he suggests. He said, I think people would see the justification of increasing taxes on assets and the very, very highly paid. I'm talking about the 1%, he said, in order to make the transfer directly to reduce child poverty. Now, he previously said that a 2% charge on people with assets valued of over £10 million could bring in £11 billion to the Treasury. Kevin, we know the Chancellor is looking for change down the back of the metaphorical Treasury sofa. Is a wealth tax, this idea of 2% on assets, not on income, but on assets of £10 million or more, is it getting any traction in the government?
No, it's actually getting. I think it's getting more traction in the country than it is with the government.
Huge public support.
And yeah, Neil Kinnock has become a conscience of the Labour Party, and I think a conscience of the country, which wants a bit more Robin Hood, take from the rich to give to the poor, fund public services, make Britain a fairer and better country. Because there is popular support by it. Now, of course, the test for the government, if you implement the policy, is how do you stop people who are incredibly rich just transferring their money abroad to try and dodge it. Now, you can attempt to tackle that, but I think in principle, Neil Kinnock is right. And wealthy people are under-taxed in our country. We're an unfair country. They're always moaning, but they are under-taxed. For instance, capital gains tax. If you're making a load of money on the stock market, you'll pay capital gains, lower rates than income tax. So people who are going to work, driving a bus, driving a taxi, in a call centre, doing your wiring at home, your plumbing, they pay a higher marginal rate of tax than people having unearned income on the stock exchange. That's got to be wrong. You look at council tax, which hasn't been reformed in England since the early 1990s. People with huge properties in London are paying less than average council taxpayers up north. Now, that's got to be wrong as well. And inheritance tax is ripe for reform.
No, I'd abolish.
Ripe for reform.
I'd abolish inheritance tax, full stop. You know, I want to leave my house to my child one day.
OK, yeah, but Andrew, you were saying...
You can leave £500,000 before you pay a penny tax. £500,000.
Andrea, this tax on wealth, let's just be very clear, because I think a lot of the time this has been misconstrued and misunderstood. No one is saying tax income higher. So if you're out there making £300,000-400,000 a year, good on you, pay the right amount of tax for that. What people like Lord Kinnock are suggesting is tax assets. So if you have taxes of £10 million and over, we're going to ask you to pay 2% of whatever is above 10 million quid. The estimation is that there's a very small amount of people that this would apply to, about 20,000 individuals. Would you support that?
Look, but they would just leave Britain. And I want Britain to be an environment where it's an economic environment where we welcome millionaires, billionaires to invest in businesses, to help create growth, to create jobs. And that's what we should be as Britain. And look, I liked Reform's policy, actually. We called it Robin Hood as well, where to stop this exodus, why not charge, we called it the Britannia card, 250k to non-doms. Let's get some money and then give that to the poorest. I mean, I think we should be saving money, actually. We should be ditching net zero. We should be stopping...
Your Britannia card was taken apart, and your inheritance tax proposal was taken apart, and it was showing you were going to give more money to people who already have the most money. You are selling it as Robin Hood. It was more Sheriff of Nottingham.
It's rubbish. Look, we need to ditch net zero. We need to stop putting people in hotels. We need to doge every public sector environment. We've got to stop paying trade union conveyors.
We're talking about taxing the rich.
No,
I want to pick you up.
But this is how we save money for Britain.
Sure.
I want wealth creators to come to Britain to create jobs.
Sure, but no one's stopping that. What the proposals are is
on assets. Yeah.
On assets. So people who are already here and have assets of £10 million or more. Yeah. Now, you say that if you put those taxes 2%, so let's say you've got assets worth £15 million, you're only going to be taxed 2% on £5 million, okay? But you're saying that people faced with that will pick up and leave. I want to understand, how will they do that? Their assets are here. What, are they going to sell those assets? And if they sell those assets, isn't that a good thing? Because that means that other people are allowed to buy them.
No, I just feel that the Labour government in its entirety, they just want to attack the doers who are doing the right thing. We've seen the Employment Rights Bill as well.
Oh, terrible, people having rights at work.
No, but it's got ridiculous. It's very hard to set up a business. I mean, look, I met with I met with Asia House.
It's an
recently.
insight into reform here. You're not seeing the workers here, you're seeing the employers, the bosses, aren't you? This is it, because you're a very right-wing party
rubbish.
with the most right-wing Tories. Farage was a Thatcherite, Tice was your deputy leader, Richard Tice, and you were against all those people.
I don't
want
like
to get
trade
the vote
unions. I'll be honest with you, I don't like trade unions.
You don't want workers to have power?
No, I want workers to have rights, but it's got
better
ridiculous
wages.
now.
All right. I'm going to pause. I'm going to pause you there because I want to hear from Emma, who's been patiently waiting to speak to us from Staffordshire. Emma, welcome to the show. Would you support this? Tax people 2% over assets worth over £10 million?
Of course. How did they get their money? Isn't it the work? Haven't we worked for them? So shouldn't they give back? Like, those directors, those non-doms, how did they get to that position?
Well, they worked for that money. They earned money and they bought stuff.
No, they didn't. They directed other people to work. They've got companies who works in the companies.
OK, Emma, thank you for kicking us off. We're going to be taking now. Let's take your calls on whether we need to bring in a wealth tax for the super rich. That's what former Labour leader Neil Kinnock is calling for. 0207 862 2222 is the number that you need. Bill is waiting to speak to us from Lancashire. Bill, welcome to the show. Good idea or bad idea?
Well, it's not just their problem, is it? It's everybody in the country's problem. Mm-hmm. And really, what we should be looking at is a way to get down the national debt, which is £3 trillion.
Okay, but
hang on just a minute. There's 66 million people, including every man, woman, and child in this country. So we proportionately broke it down to everybody to try and sort that part out and do it over a period of, say, 5 years or whatever, so we can try to get rid of it without touching anything that's coming into the government.
Okay, in order to do that, you need to find money somewhere. Otherwise, you keep borrowing in order to spend.
That's what I mean. If you look at everybody and proportionally tax people, every one of us is to blame for this lot.
Okay, but Bill, everyone is being taxed at the moment proportionately. Higher earners pay a higher rate of tax.
On everybody. If everybody had a whip round, if they had a whip round to everybody, every 66 million people,
whip round for everybody.
What can you afford?
But then, Bill, you're also.
You're paying?
But Bill, you're also going to be hitting people who are not making that much money. So wouldn't you want to hit the people that have got those assets, remember, of 10 million above, ask them to pay that little bit extra?
Yeah, but at the same time, on a proportionate rate, everybody. If I've got say £10,000 in bank, take £2,000 off me or £3,000 on a one-off basis every year until it's paid off. I'd be willing to pay
that's a radical system. I'm not quite sure if any politician would be brave enough to even utter it. But Bill, thank you for kicking us off. William's in Renfrewshire. William, welcome to the show. A tax on the super wealthy. Good idea or bad idea?
Good idea. Welcome, Alex. Good morning, Alex. It's a good idea. My big problem is that we allow these people to disappear abroad when they don't like it. We're only asking them to pay a fair bit of tax. What I would suggest as well is that If they don't want to pay it and they go abroad, don't let them into Britain. Take their knighthoods off them and damehoods. Don't let them come in to meet kings and queens. Don't let them into theatres, treating them like the Russian businessmen just now, because this is what we're up against. And we get this big lie about they create jobs. They don't create jobs. They create jobs because they need these people. Sir James Dyson had a factory in England, and when it suited him, he shut that factory and moved abroad. He's got 15.3 billion in the bank. Do we really need these people?
Andrea, you heard there from William. I mean, there is the idea that these people are job creators, but sometimes they don't happen to be. They just happen to inherit a whole load of money that they got. £10 million and above, 2%. William agrees. Are you convinced by his arguments?
No, I mean, look, you've always got to look on fairness as well. And everybody should pay tax, I think, in Britain. Yeah, I agree with that. Except if it's a case of it means we're going to lose them. This Britannia card, I think, is great because we've got to get something of people who come into Britain.
William's got something here, though. Look, they don't create jobs and employ people as philanthropists.
Well, some of them do.
They're making money out of people.
No, but
and if they want to live in, if they want
the jobs for nothing,
if they want to live in Britain and enjoy all the benefits of Britain, then you've got to pay your fair dues, and they're not paying their fair dues now. And if they want to live in Dubai, let them live in Dubai, William. I'll drive them to Heathrow. I'll put them on the flight.
Kevin's got volunteered for the fun bus. I think we're veering to the non-dom issue. We are talking about people who are here already and have got assets of £10 million and above. William, thank you. Let's move on to Maria, who's in Middlesex. Maria, welcome to the show. Do you think we should tax people who have assets worth of £10 million and above 2%?
No.
Why not?
You're just going to scare them away, as everybody else is saying. Money gives you options. That's the big thing about money. It gives you options. You can just walk. No, they might not be creating jobs, but they're spending money. They're paying their rates. They're paying their bills. They're out buying expensive meals in London. They're spenders.
OK, they are spenders. That's a good point, that they will be spending their money in the economy, but they're also buying assets. So if they're spending their money by buying flats, buying houses, that means there's fewer of those for the people who can just about afford to get on the housing ladder, which means the price goes up. Now, Maria, you said if you tax them, and Andrea made that point, they're just going to pick up and leave. Are they going to be able to sell £10 million of assets and go?
Why do they have to sell them all to go?
Well, because otherwise, if they stay here, they're going to be taxed.
OK. Well, at the end of the day, at the moment, there's so many people live in this country and all their clever accountants will work a way around it. I think there was 30,000 really rich people that left last year.
Well, that's not true, Maria. Last week, the growth numbers came out, and they found, the HMRC found that actually broadly we're exactly in line with where the Office of Budget Responsibility had predicted how many people would leave, and we're right on that line. So there hasn't been that big exodus of very wealthy people leaving the country since Labour took over. But thank you, Maria. You make some valid points. Maxine's in Dorset. Maxine, welcome to the show. Do you think it's a good idea to tax people with £10 million worth of assets a little bit more?
Yeah, I do.
But what about Maria's concerns that we heard earlier? And Andrea, what happens if those people decide, well, I don't want to live here anymore? They're not going to be spending all that money in the restaurants and the shopping areas, and the economy will suffer.
No, I don't think so. I mean, they're not going to miss it, are they? Well, I mean, the government are always picking on the poor, so they should be taxing the rich. Sandra, they can afford it. They're not going to miss it, are they?
Sandra, that is exactly right, because they have so much money, they can't spend it all. It'll be in stocks and shares. And if you look at the stock market over the years, it goes up on average by more than 2%. So if you're taking 2% from them, you're just taking some more of their gains. You're right, they can't spend it all. That's it. But you could put it to good use, either abolishing the two-child benefit cap brought in by the Conservatives. I don't know if you were an MP when that happened, but you put 500,000 kids into poverty, or you can improve health and education, the law and order system, fill in potholes, whatever you're right. But you're absolutely right, Sandra, they won't miss it.
OK, Sandra, Maxine, thank you. Sandra's in Devon. Sandra, welcome to the show. Do you think it's a good idea?
Well, I'm very ancient. I'm actually over 80. And I think in the dim, distant past, there was different rates of VAT.
Right.
And say, not on food, and I believe at one side, not on books, but who buys books now? But there was also a luxury rate of VAT.
Right.
In other words, if you were buying onions and apples and stuff for a meal, you paid nothing extra on that. But if you bought a Rolex watch, there would be a higher rate of tax on them.
Interesting thought. Thank you, Sandra. Interesting thought. Put a tax, VAT, higher VAT on luxury items, I guess. Plenty of opinions out there. Thank you so much for all your calls. Look, after the break.